functioned as a temple during the time of Queen Cleopatra and the Greek pharaohs. So this could be the perfect place for Cleopatra's lost tomb.
For centuries, Cleopatra's tomb remained the world's greatest mystery. Every empire searched for it. Every search ended in a dead end. It was said that Cleopatra and Mark Antony were buried together, but no one ever found the place. Everyone had given up, perhaps until today. Because west of Egypt, beneath the sands of Alexandria, scientists have discovered a tunnel that is being called an engineering miracle, a path that leads to an ancient secret. When they drilled underground, they found a chamber so perfectly sealed that it had never been recorded in Egyptian history. And when it was opened, what was inside shook the entire world. The tomb had been sealed for 2,000 years. No light, no human touch. And when scientists peered inside, they understood why this tomb had never been found. History says that Cleopatra was dead, but that day every researcher present felt the queen had refused to die, and the data the scientists obtained was even more astonishing. In 1972, Soviet researchers detected rhythmic vibrations beneath this very spot, as if the ground itself was breathing. They named it Ab al-Nafas, meaning the place that breathes. Those readings were forgotten for years, but now that very evidence is proving the truth of Cleopatra's tomb. If you too want to know what was found inside that chamber, like the video, comment, share, and don't forget to subscribe. Because what you see next isn't history. It's a truth more terrifying than reality itself. Cleopatra wasn't just a name. She was the last queen of Egypt, leaving a mark on history so profound that it remains unforgettable. She was considered incredibly intelligent, courageous, and beautiful. But her greatest strength was her mind, a power that allowed her to challenge even a superpower like Rome. Cleopatra mastered politics, strategy, and diplomacy to save Egypt from collapse. But when Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony died, Cleopatra's life took a turn from which there was no return. Roman forces had reached Egyptian soil. Octavian, who would later become Augustus Caesar, wanted to eliminate both Cleopatra and Antony. Legend has it that when Cleopatra allowed herself to be bitten by a poisonous snake, it wasn't just death, it was a message. No one can defeat me. What happened to her body afterward remains a mystery. Some say the Romans burned her, others say she had prepared her own tomb, where she was buried with Antony. This is where the greatest search began, for Cleopatra's tomb. For thousands of years, archaeologists, historians, and explorers have been trying to find this place. But every search, every clue, ended in a dead end. Every excavation began with new hope and ended in disappointment. Among the many ancient structures found around Alexandria, people hoped this might be her tomb, but all turned out to be false. Today, Cleopatra is not just a queen, but a mystery. A mystery that has intrigued scientists and explorers around the world for centuries. Every place, every map, and every ancient text associated with her name conceals something. And it is this passion that has never let archaeologists give up. Because until Cleopatra's real tomb is found, history will remain incomplete. The year was 1972, when the world was divided and the Cold War was at its peak. At the same time, Soviet scientists were on a completely different mission in Western Egypt, to find oil. But when they sent their seismic machines underground, they discovered a signal far more mysterious than oil. Their sensors recorded rhythmic vibrations, a kind of slow, pulsing sound coming from within the ground. It wasn't an earthquake, nor was it the hum of machinery. It was something else entirely. Scientists repeatedly checked the readings, but the depth of the signal eluded them. The area was a few miles from Alexandria, a dry, quiet, and desolate region, where human activity was almost non-existent. Gradually, locals began calling the place Ab al-Nafas, meaning the place that breathes. It seemed as if something was breathing beneath the ground, an ancient mystery still alive. The Soviet team prepared a thorough report, filed the readings, and sent the data to Moscow. But after that, nothing. No one touched the project again. The reason was politics and timing. Relations between Egypt and the USSR were changing at that time. Funding stopped, and all scientific energy was diverted to oil and war. Something like the discovery of Cleopatra's tomb was considered luxury research at that time. As a result, the report remained buried in dusty archives, and the world forgot about that heartbeat. No one spoke of that data for many years, until modern archaeologists recently reopened that archive file. When they replayed the same signal from that old tape, it sent shivers down everyone's spine. The sound was still the same, steady, rhythmic, and as if something were alive beneath the ground. Was it nature or something else? No one knows. But one thing is certain, it was that 1972 signal that set the direction for the excavations to come. From here began the path that ultimately led to the lost tomb of Cleopatra. Years later, as new technology transformed the world of archaeology, Egyptian scientists decided to resume the search for Cleopatra's lost tomb. But this time using modern technology, not old methods. They resurveyed the old Abal Nafas area, and with the help of ground-penetrating radar, GPR, they discovered some very strange signs underground. The radar images clearly showed a long, straight, tunnel-like structure beneath the limestone layers, as if someone had carved a secret passage there 2,000 years ago. Then the drilling began, a highly precise and slow process. Each inch of soil was mapped with 3D scanners before removing it so as not to disturb any ancient artifacts. As the drill went deeper, the scientists' instruments began to pick up different sounds. At one point, sonar even recorded the sound of a hollow chamber. That was the moment when everyone thought, perhaps they had finally found Cleopatra's passage. The camera crew recorded footage from every angle, aerial drone shots, rig-mounted cameras, and wide landscape views, to create a documentary-like presentation of the entire excavation. As the drill team passed a depth of 13 meters, the soil beneath suddenly loosened, revealing the mouth of a narrow tunnel. The architecture astonished everyone. The stone-cutting engineering was so perfect that even modern tools would be difficult to achieve. Despite the moisture on the walls, the carvings remained intact, and the tunnel's ceiling displayed ancient Egyptian alignments used only in royal tombs. Archaeologists, upon seeing this tunnel, called it an engineering miracle. Imagine how a passage with such precise angles and perfect symmetry could have been built 2,000 years ago without modern machinery. And most astonishingly, this tunnel did not appear on any known Egyptian map or record, meaning it had been deliberately hidden. Everyone was now convinced that this was the passage leading to Cleopatra's final resting place. Every sound of excavation, every particle of dust, was moving towards unlocking history. When the moment finally arrived, when the team reached the heavy door at the end of the ancient tunnel, everyone held their breath. The door was made of both stone and metal and was engraved with intricate sealing patterns. The seal was so strong that, despite thousands of years, it hadn't cracked. The scientists said, "We've never seen such perfect sealing before." When they slowly made the first crack, a gust of cold, stale air gushed out from within, as if a secret locked away for centuries had been released. The chamber inside was shrouded in darkness. When light was shone on the walls, it shone like gold. But it wasn't gold. It was some kind of metallic compound, unaffected by both humidity and time. Stone slabs lay on the ground, each bearing traces of light etching. The ancient resin applied to some areas was still intact, as if time had stood still. The look on the scientists' faces was clear. They were standing before a monumental discovery. Everyone stood with bated breath, not for the cameras but for history. In the center of the chamber stood a large rectangular platform, and above it a stone box, sealed, covered in dust, and engraved with symbols no one had ever seen before. Around the symbols were light layers of blue and black pigment, still glowing. Some of the shapes resembled regular Egyptian hieroglyphs, but others seemed otherworldly. The archaeologists didn't even touch them. They just turned up the lights a little and began scanning. As high-resolution scans arrived, scholars realized that these symbols didn't match any known Egyptian or Greek script. Not hieroglyphs, not Demotic, not Coptic. They were something else. Some researchers believed they were a symbolic code created by priests to conceal Cleopatra's final rite, while other experts said it wasn't a language, but frequency symbols, resembling an ancient sound-based code. Historians later compared old papyrus texts and found a line, "The queen shall rest where words lose meaning." Perhaps this was the clue. The purpose of burying Cleopatra so deeply was to ensure her tomb was in a place beyond human language. Scientists created digital models of the symbols and projected them with artificial light patterns. When they changed the angle of light, the alignment of the symbols also changed, as if the walls themselves were moving. The team leader said, "This architecture isn't just a tomb, it's a coded chamber." And then a faint sound was recorded in a corner. A slight vibration, similar to what Soviet sensors had heard in 1972. Everything came together again. That old heartbeat, that forgotten Abal Nafas, and now this sealed chamber. Was Cleopatra's tomb really breathing? No one knows. But the silence in the room at that moment, it was telling that whatever is hidden here is not ordinary, but the biggest secret of history. The stone box in the center of the chamber caught everyone's attention. It stood out from the rest. It had a pale blue color, as if made of some strange mineral. It was coated in a thick layer of ancient resin and had gold-like clamps at all four corners. The engraved letters at the top were not a language, but a warning, the meaning of which was later deciphered. "She shall rise again," meaning she will rise again. The excavation site fell silent upon hearing these words. Amazement and fear were present on the faces of every scientist present. No one could imagine such a thing being written on a 2,000-year-old tomb. Some immediately began to back away, believing it might be part of a curse or ritual. The air felt heavy, and a faint heartbeat-like sound began to appear on the camera recording. The technical team thought it was a fault with the sound equipment, but the sensors also picked up the same faint heartbeat. The atmosphere was so tense that no one could speak much. The excavation lead said only one thing: "This box will not be opened until every precaution is taken." A few hours later, archaeologists and historians agreed that the box would be opened, but only under scientific protocol. Immediately, experts began debating what the box could be. Some believed it was Cleopatra's actual sarcophagus, while others thought it was a symbolic vessel, perhaps a way to preserve her soul or power. This is where the science versus myth conflict began. Ancient Egyptian priests wrote that Cleopatra called herself the Bride of Osiris, the bride returning to Osiris. Many historians believe this meant her final union with the god of life and death. However, modern scientists argued that this was a religious metaphor, not something supernatural. One expert said, "This box is likely an example of biological preservation. Inside, there may not be a body, but chemical traces indicating the embalming process." Another said, "No, it's part of a regeneration ritual to symbolically immortalize Cleopatra." A third viewpoint suggested it was simply a political statement. Cleopatra wanted her death to be as mysterious as her life. But as the team performed thermal scans and X-ray imaging, dense structures began to appear inside the box like an organic shape, but not entirely human. The scientists' words were, "This is either a preservation experiment or something we should never have understood." The camera slowly zoomed in closer. A slow heartbeat echoed in the background, and the entire team, like every viewer, had the same question in their hearts. Was Cleopatra really dead? Or was she about to rise again, as promised? The objects found in the chamber were not just artifacts, but a puzzle for science. First, the team transferred all the objects to airtight chambers to prevent them from being damaged by air or moisture. Then began the real phase of scientific testing. Each sample was analyzed on 3 levels: radiocarbon dating, isotopic analysis, and material composition tests. Radiocarbon testing allowed scientists to determine the period of the objects. And when the initial report came in, everyone was stunned. The date was around 30 BCE, the exact time when Cleopatra is believed to have died. This could not be a coincidence. Then isotope testing produced another startling result. The metal layer found inside contained a compound that did not match any known Egyptian mineral source. Some elements were even different from modern metallic blending, as if created from an ancient chemical formula. Scientists called this an unknown synthesis. The chemical compound found in the resin sample had remained undisturbed even after 2,000 years, showing how advanced conservation techniques were in ancient Egypt. Material analysis also confirmed that the limestone used in the box and chamber wasn't sourced from a typical Egyptian quarry. It came from a specific secret site on the northern coast, unrecorded until now. Lab charts, graphs, and animations showed that each sample matched Cleopatra's final period. However, some readings were inexplicable, like signs of a biological residue that has remained unidentified. The scientists declared, "This isn't DNA, but something that follows an organic pattern." It was a moment that challenged science. As soon as the news broke, the world's media and social platforms were abuzz. Breaking news was everywhere. Cleopatra's tomb, found in Egypt. People oscillated between disbelief and excitement. YouTubers created theories. Cleopatra returns trended on Twitter, and people on TikTok began making videos with the line, "She shall rise again." Some religious groups called it a divine sign, while others warned that opening tombs is a sin. Historians and archaeologists also sparked heated debate. Some said that this discovery was the greatest evidence in history, showing that Cleopatra's existence was not just a myth, but an accurate historical fact. Meanwhile, some experts called it a conspiracy, claiming that the excavation was deliberately orchestrated for media hype. Users on Reddit and Discord began spreading theories that it might have been a bioregeneration experiment that occurred during Cleopatra's time. News agencies around the world announced documentaries on the subject. Even the BBC, Discovery, and National Geographic called it the most significant find of the century. Meanwhile, Egyptian authorities declared the site a restricted zone to prevent any unauthorized footage from leaking. But the leak did happen. Drone footage showing a sealed box with the words, "She shall rise again," and it went viral. Millions of people saw it, and Cleopatra's name was instantly revived. The most interesting thing amid this entire uproar was that public opinion was divided. Half called it a triumph of science, and the other half called it a sinful act of death. A single question echoed everywhere. Is Cleopatra going to rise again? And this question turned this discovery not just into an archaeological discovery, but into a global phenomenon, where science, history, and faith all stood face to face. When the sealed box was finally opened, the atmosphere at the excavation site was as if time had stopped. Cameras were on, lights were dimmed, and the entire room was silent. As the scientists slowly broke the seal, a light cloud of dust rose from within, as if centuries of slumber were being awakened. When the dust settled, a beautiful, golden-like figure was revealed inside. But it wasn't a complete human body. Instead, it was a half-organic, half-metallic structure. It seemed as if a body had been preserved using some ancient technique, but not left fully human. On the figure's head was an intricate gold crown, carved with two snakes, one black and one white. Historians believe this duality symbolized Cleopatra's philosophy, life and death as one. A small papyrus scroll placed near the crown further astonished the scientists. The language written on it resembled the symbol seen earlier, but when read with infrared light, a message emerged. The body may fade, but the voice of the queen shall remain. The box also contained some metallic artifacts, the structure of which remains unexplained. One was a small sphere that attracted energy like a magnet, and on the other, a crystal-like object emitted a faint blue light. Many scientists attributed this to a natural mineral reaction, but some experts believe it could be a method of ancient Egyptian energy storage. Cleopatra's secret was perhaps not just her beauty or power, but her knowledge. Perhaps she understood a science beyond the limits of time. Another chiseled stone tablet was found in a corner of the wall, depicting two figures, Cleopatra and Osiris, holding similar symbols. Below it was written, "She returned not to die, but to unite what was divided." This line was puzzling to historians. Did this mean Cleopatra controlled her own death? Did she make her body part of an experiment, not just a ritual? The theories grew ever more profound. Some called it spiritual rebirth, while others said, this is evidence of the world's first biological preservation experiment. Now, if this chamber is indeed Cleopatra's final resting place, its impact on history won't be like any ordinary discovery. It will rewrite history. Cleopatra will no longer be seen simply as a beautiful queen, but as a visionary scientist and philosopher who sought to understand life after death. Historians say that the rivalry between Rome and Egypt will now be seen in a new light. Perhaps Cleopatra, along with Antony, mythologized her death so that future generations would try to understand her, not forget her. Egyptian rituals, until now considered mere superstition, are now being viewed through the lens of science. Were those ancient chants actually biological codes? Was mummification not just a religious practice, but a preservation technique? All these questions are now opening doors to new research. One historian said, "If this is really Cleopatra's tomb, then it shows us that immortality is not just a story, it's an endeavor." And another expert said, "She became immortal not for her beauty, but for her mind." Slowly, the camera zooms out of the chamber. Slow orchestral music plays in the background, and the narrator's deep voice is heard. Perhaps Cleopatra's body is still here, but her spirit, in every question, every discovery, and every wonder, lives on. She proved that humans die, but mysteries never. As the world was shaken by Cleopatra's discovery, a new question arose. Was it right to open the tomb? The debate among scientists and historians was not just about discovery, but about responsibility. Some called the discovery the greatest triumph of human knowledge, while others called it disturbing a sacred rest. Egyptian authorities have completely sealed the excavation site and stated that further studies will be conducted under ethical supervision. The question remains, are we entitled to disturb a queen's sleep simply because we are curious? It wasn't easy for scientists either. Every test, every chemical sample became a moral dilemma. Procedures like radiocarbon dating or DNA extraction were now questionable. If it really was Cleopatra's body, would it be right to dissect it? Some experts say preservation should be prioritized. Knowledge can wait, but history cannot. Other scientists maintain that if Cleopatra's legacy is to be understood, science must go to the very end. Amidst this debate, several global institutions, such as UNESCO and the Egyptian Heritage Board, are now developing new ethical frameworks to set a clear direction for future excavations. Another major question is whether, following this discovery, the remaining sections should be excavated. Radar images indicate that there are more sub-tunnels beneath the main chamber, but they have not yet been opened. Perhaps there are more artifacts there, or even a second chamber. But for now, the team has decided that further excavation will only take place when all safety and preservation criteria are met. Detailed reports of chemical scans and isotope mapping are expected in the next few months, which will likely delve deeper into this mystery. Gradually, the tone of the video calms down. The narrator's voice becomes deeper and more thought-provoking. We have uncovered a layer of history, but perhaps beneath it lie many more layers yet to be understood. Cleopatra's story is no longer just about archaeology. It has become a question: does humanity have the right to know every secret? And then comes the cliffhanger and the teaser. But the story doesn't end here. The camera slowly zooms out from the excavation site. The sun is setting on the distant horizon, sand blowing in the wind. We've seen a beginning, but the real truth remains hidden. In the next episode, we'll show exclusive footage that hasn't been released to the public until now. The moment when scientists discovered another sealed door beneath the chamber. The screen slowly fades, revealing the final line. If you also want to see the next installment of this mystery, like the video, comment, share, and don't forget to subscribe, because this story is no longer just history, it's a waking tale. And finally, this was the story of Cleopatra's tomb, which shook the history of the world. A mystery hidden for 2,000 years has once again awakened human curiosity, but this is just the beginning. The real truth is yet to come. In the next video, we'll show the lab results that will reveal the biological evidence found inside the box and what scientists discovered about the energy sphere. There's also an exclusive expert interview where archaeologists will reveal how much of Cleopatra's story is true and how much remains shrouded in mystery. If you believe history has awakened, like this video, comment, and share your opinion. Don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon so you'll be the first to know when the next video comes out, in which we show the original footage and DNA reports of Cleopatra's artifacts. Because this isn't just a discovery, this is a moment when the past has come alive, and now history itself is about to speak.